So it's my pleasure to introduce you to the first presenter for today. So our first presenter for today is Travis Teo. He is the co-founder and executive director of Adzymic. So Adzymic is an ad tech company that helps brands and agencies simplify the creative management processes and improve their display advertising performance. So, hi, Travis.
So I'm Travis, co-founder of Adzymic. Just a quick introduction about Adzymic. So we are advertising technology company that focus on helping advertising agencies or advertisers to improve the digital advertising performance. We do it in two ways. One is through our creative, and second is through data. So this topic about transitioning from a cookie world to a cookieless world has been a big topic in my heart. And I believe the audience here probably share the same sentiment. I know that this has been an ongoing discussion about how you guys can transit cookieless world. One things that I saw in the research that done by Epsilon few probably last year mentioned that 69% of marketers think that the impact of third-party cookies depreciation will have a bigger impact than GDPR or CCPA, which is the California Privacy Act. And a big 80% aren't really confident that their vendors can provide a viable solution. So we're going to do a simple poll today as well. You kind of see, does the audience here share the same sentiment, right, in terms of whether the depreciation of third-party cookies do have impact on your marketing activities? Yeah. Feel free to submit your answer, and we're probably going to take a few seconds and then share the result here. Yep, so once I think we have enough submission, we can probably show a quick result. Okay, probably around more than 60% feel that there's moderately impacted. 21% feel that they are significantly impacted. Yeah, so don't know. That is something that I will be going through as well. Why we feel that this is an important topic, and hopefully you were able to learn something after this session. Yeah, the second poll. How prepared is the organization for the transition to a cookieless world in 2022? So are you fully prepared, moderately prepared, somewhat prepared, not prepared at all? Hopefully not. Yeah, don't know. Probably that is some may feel that you're not really sure. Yeah. Okay, 40% probably somewhat prepared. 20% not prepared at all. Probably around 50% is kind of like not prepared at all and don't know. Yeah, hopefully today's session will kind of share some lights in terms of what kind of approaches you can do, how you can prepare for the cookieless world, right? And before I go into that, is really to explain for those who say that they're not really sure does it have impact. Just want to explain to you why in this industry there's such a big topic about cookieless, right? So last year in 2020, Chrome announced that Google announced that Chrome is no longer supporting third-party cookies. It's gone away. And actually, for the past 15 years, third-party cookie has been one of the key identifier to identify users across domains in the open web, right? So this is just one example that let's say John, who visited advertiser A, and the way that advertiser can track John is probably set a cookie, so that if John didn't make a purchase, leave the site, advertiser can actually continue to target John at the publishers. So at the publisher side, if John visit, let's say, publisher A, and publisher A will, through the supply side platform, submit a bid request about John. And there's a way that on the advertiser side, able to identify John, and then using a real-time bidding to win the impression and submit the ad to the publisher. So in order to do this kind of real-time bidding, it's actually require kind of a cookie sync that has been going on at the background. So without the cookie sync, without third-party cookies, there's a few things that we're not able to perform, right? A few things is like advertiser will no longer able to target John, right? That means that the whole notion about digital advertising, targeting the right person at the right time will not be possible, right? Without cookie. Advertisers were not able to limit the number of ads to John. That means that the frequency cap will have a challenge. You can't restrict number of ads that's shown to John. You will have wasted impression. And then there will be attribution issue. Basically, advertisers not able to see if John has converted after viewing the ads. So there's all these different kind of issues that face when third party is gone. So yeah, and since Google announced about this whole depreciation of third-party cookies back in 2020, there's actually quite a lot of solutions out there, kind of propose of alternate solutions. One is could be login hash email as first-party data. Google themselves actually come up with their own flock flash under the Google Privacy Sandbox. And some vendors out there have some very innovative way of contextual targeting using semantic AI, keywords targeting. There were a bunch of universal ID being kind of spring out for the past few months, kind of resolve this whole identity issue, right? The other way is using probabilistic. So in my mind, these are all really great solutions, right? In terms of replacing cookie, but it's not really kind of one size fit all. There's no kind of one solution to kind of mitigate this whole cookieless world, right? What I believe for advertisers and agencies and tech partners is really work together a multi-pronged approach of solutions, practices to ensure that brands themselves continue to prepare when you transit into a cookieless world. There are right now, there are of course other ways of identification such as device ID, IDFA by Apple. Those themselves has also kind of undergoing some privacy control. So for example, Apple require all the apps to have opt-in in order to track individual audience using the IDFA, right? So as we move into a privacy first approach, right, the whole thinking of targeting attributions will need to be kind of relooked into. So what I propose is actually three-pronged approach in the post-cookie world, right? First of all, I think we need to start to continue to look at who shall you target. Essentially is building your first-party data, which I think quite a number of vendors do have solutions available. I'm going to share that some of the different approaches that you can take a look at. Where your ads should appear, right? So basically is creating your own brands of sites. And lastly, it's about creative, right? How you can elevate creatives to drive performance. So these are the three things that I feel is going to be essential when you transit into a post-cookie world. I'll start off with who. Just some approaches. So Google doesn't leave the industry high and dry, right? So they actually provide kind of an alternate solution. They call it the Google Privacy Sandbox. And what does the Google Privacy Sandbox means is it's actually a series of technology built within Chrome browser in a privacy manner that advertisers or publishers can continue use the different APIs being built for targeting or for measurement purpose. Two examples that illustrate here. One is called the federated learning of a cohorts, which is basically grouping different audiences or individuals into interest group based on browsing history, right? So I mentioned about John just now, right? So potentially if John visit a sportwear, right, potentially browser will classify him as someone who is interested in sports, right? So this is somewhere that we can target. Advertisers can also classify their own audience according to the different interest group based on the different sections of the sites they visit, right? So this is actually part of the whole privacy sandbox manner. The one of the limitation is that all these cannot be individually targeted, right? That means that there's no way that the advertisers or the publishers can individually target John, right? What they can target is, okay, people who are interested in sportswear. The pros is that Google take up 60% market share, so definitely there's a scale to it, and it's open work group. There's actually open work group that is available for different industry players to participate in. It's kind of open source, and you can build different use cases within proposal, right? And Google being Google, right, they have a huge footprint in terms of Google Ads, in the DV360, which is a buying platform, and potentially Google is going to use the same cohort targeting within their platform. And also last week, Google had a marketing event. They mentioned that they will not be doing any backdoor. That means that they will not be using their own ID to do audience targeting. We will wait and see, and I believe that they because of this whole privacy thing, they will make sure that they also participate in this whole privacy sandbox. The cons is that it's still work in progress, right? It's still ongoing trial, especially in Europe region because of the GDPR. There's a concern that the privacy sandbox were not able to undergoing certain GDPR compliance. So that's still being sorted out. And I think let me just try to fix this. Yeah, so it's still, because it's only happening on the Chrome browser, right? So it's actually leaving out potentially more than like probably 40% of the market share. And you can't, so what happened to those that are not using Chrome, right? So because all this transaction about the bidding is happening in the Chrome environment, that will be a lot of dependency on the Google. So this is one approach that you should be looking into, but I'm not suggesting that you should be just looking at this. So there should be different ways that you should be looking at when you build out your first party audience. Okay, the second part, which is after the Chrome announcement, right, that that's actually one of the way that user can identify, not just using cookies, using a universal ID, right? So one of the way that identity can be produced is using a hash email or login. So example that if John visited advertiser A, and there should be a kind of a value exchange for John to leave an email address, so that there will be a hash email that can be captured by the advertiser, DMP or CDP, and using kind of a unified approach, unified ID to link up this hash email with the publishers, right? So this is one way that you can uniquely identify an audience across different domains between the advertisers and the publishers. So one example is the Unified 2.0 initiative by Trade Desk, which is now kind of open source. They pass it over, I think, to the IAB Tech Lab for kind of further growing that initiative. The pros is that is deterministic. That means that the advertisers probably were able to uniquely identify the audience. Because it's owned by the clients, you have a control, and it's kind of opt-in. You make sure that there should be supposed to be a privacy opt-in to make sure that what the users coming in is actually what they are opted in for, right? The cons is that it's still on the beta. Potentially there's limited scale because not all users will leave an email, and you potentially require a customer data platform or DMP to build that first party audiences, right? So this is one approach. The second one is actually cookie based. So basically is using a first party cookie to store a unique identity. So you may be wondering, okay, I thought that cookie is gone, so why it still appear here? So what is gone is actually third party cookies. What is still available is actually a first-party cookie, which is cookies set by the own client's brand domain, right? So these cookies probably sit within the brand domain. You're not able to share it with other players, so you can't do any cookie sync and things like that. And probably requires some kind of probabilistic approach to uniquely identify users. One example, we call it like fingerprinting approach, to really based on the user device settings such as browser resolution, the version of the OS, the version of the browser, and all this to come up with a uniquely identify a user in a probabilistic way. So this one of the pros is that it's scalable. That means that you can everyone there's a way that you can uniquely identify the users if they are opt-in, and you don't require email. So there's a scalability on it. There's longevity in the first party cookie. What is required is kind of like a universal ID approach to link up. So if you're working with specific data management platform, you need to ensure that there's a way that these data can be activated to run on across advertising platform, right? So these are kind of the different ways that you can build a first party audience. This is one slide I want to share as well. It's really to share with you in terms of the adoption of universal ID across the different publisher side. So one thing is that this one that the top few I see is the ID5 ID, Unified ID by Trade Desk, and the IDT link, I think by LiveRamp. These are the kind of top universal ID that got adoption across the publishers. The good thing is that there's still 6 months to go before the depreciation of the cookies on Chrome. So I believe these numbers is going to going up for the next few months, or even by next year. Okay. The second thing is that mentioned about is where your ad should appear. So what you should be looking at is really curating your own brand sites. One way is looking at past performance, looking at the different contextual targeting, ensure there's a brand safe, fraud-free environment, co-op with your local publishers in terms of setting up deals, so that you can leverage on their second-party data so that you can have a better targeting across. So make sure that you do testing with lists of sites that have been performing well, and leverage on some of those contextual targeting options, and all that, right? So in terms of media planning, usually when it comes to programmatic, we always talk about audience targeting and things like that. Site list is probably something that you should be given high priority in the future, because that is one way that you should be looking into once you move into a post-cookie world. The last part is really delivering creative impact. And this is one topic I always be involved in, because Adzymic is a creative solution provider. I'm going to share with you some practices that we have been seeing where we work with different clients, right? So and creative is always an afterthought, right? So but if one study done by Nelson a few years ago, right, it actually mentioned that creative take out 47% of sales contribution, right? So and I think when it comes to media buying, a lot of time creative usually afterthought, or it's a separate creative ideation process, right? The way that we should able to look at creative is really looking into different audiences, the different objectives you should look into, and rather than just providing a standard banners, right? And that's where using technology come into play. You should be looking at how leveraging technology to simplify the whole creative production, using creative automation to personalize the ads. Data will explain a little bit about DCO, and then turning out some rich media creative at scale easily. Just some example, just to show. So this is just a few examples that you can start to think about how you can use creative to drive performance, right? So this is one client that we did in Singapore is Esplanade, who they actually run quite a number of events before the COVID hit us. So instead of running static banners for different events, right? So what we do is actually help to amplify their content within the banner space, so that there's much more user engagement. There's user can engage without leaving the sites that they are navigating. So it doesn't really disrupt the whole user behavior. So this is just one example to show. You can play the video. You can expand the video. The other one is it could be a automotive clients that can showcase different features of the product without actually leaving the website or to go to landing page. So all the content can be consumed within the banner itself. Or it could be on mobile environment, a vertical ads that can show a video showcasing different product information. Or it could be a performance-based, capturing leads and all this, as well as shopping ads, showcasing different product information within the banner. So all this is actually all the different innovations that's happening within the creative, and it's going to be important once you move into a post-cookie world. You should start looking at creative as well. When it comes to DCO, is explained before that it's really using a standard master template as a master creative, and within a master template, right, there's actually different elements that you can interchange, like the product names, the title, the descriptions. You can just swap in, swap out the different elements within the creative in real time based on different data signal, right? So in the post-cookie world, there's still different ways that you can personalize the ads. You can actually target based on location, right? The nearest locations are showing the most relevant brands outlet, or based on weather, right? Is it based on hot? You probably serve an ad. Is cold, serve an ad. Based on time of the day, to personalize ads, and based on the different cohort targeting. That means that you can target based on the different the cohorts that probably the Google built. And can target based on first-party audience as well, based on the abandoned cart, last products, or probably not at the granular level as what the identity, the third-party cookie now provided, but probably in a more kind of interest group way that you can target, okay, people who are interested in visited the sport session, then you can show a series of sport shoes and things like that. Yeah, so all this is still possible in the post-cookie world. So you should start to think about how you can use creative as a way to elevate your media performance. So yeah, so this is kind of summarize what you should be looking at, with who, with where, and what in terms of content deliver. There's no one size fit all. So just to make sure that you embark on a series of testing. The good thing is that there's still time for you to testing, work with your agencies, work with your tech partners to build certain test cases, so that once the things come, right, you are prepared for it. Yeah. So yeah, that's all. I'm going to hand over back to Shaina. Yeah, to see if any questions and answer.
Yeah. Thank you, Travis, for the really great presentation. I think you really covered a lot of ground there. Really, what a great way to start, our webinar, because you really walked us through the general overview of where we are right now, and giving us, sharing with us the possible alternatives for, for third-party cookies and your three-pronged approach. Yeah. So we actually have some really great questions here today. So yeah. Travis,
yeah, maybe I'll just pick a few to, I don't think I can, because of time, I can answer all.
Yeah.
I think the first one is mentioned about what is the best of alternate of third-party cookies, all right? I don't think there's one best way. It really depends on what objectives you're looking at. You should be looking at different ways and to build your first-party audience. For example, if you are clients that have a lot of email addresses, right? Users will leave the email because you have a direct purchase approach. Then probably building a first-party audience using hash email or using email will work. right? But if you don't have a lot of like first party data, email data to engage with, then probably you need to look for alternative, which is using some kind of like a first party cookie approach to do that specific targeting. Yeah.
So it still depends, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. There's probably one also mentioned that, okay, going to a network publishers and work direct deals sound like we have regressed to the day of display. Yeah, I should say that could be because I think but it doesn't mean that it's not a good approach. But I think it's really about agencies need or brands really start to look at sites, at least some publisher side as well, right? I think this is something that we have not been focusing on since we go into targeting audience, but working with a network of publishers, working out the deals, right? This is something that you should start to look into. What is different is that there's probably technology out there to smoothen out the whole deal process. But this is something that you should explore as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I actually have a lot of questions. So here from Mohammed Adam.
Okay, how different will performance management and result reporting in the cookieless world? What metrics will change? So yeah, so I think in terms of the Google Privacy Sandbox environment, they actually have a specific APIs that allow advertisers to measure specific measurement like view-through conversions and all that, and also that once let's say there's the universal ID get a good adoption, right? That unique identity can also be the one that used for performance measurement as well. Yeah, so it's just that we need to continue to look into like which one will fit. So it's good that we start into at least understand that there's all these options available, and start testing that.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, so maybe we could answer a few more. Travis, you want to? There's a question here about from Teddy. It's about second party data. So yeah, so first party data, of course, is the ideal, but how much should advertisers you think should rely on second party data?
So I think I think the one thing just I mentioned, second party data is that it's come from the publisher side, or that means that you're probably working with some big publishers that they are also building their data audiences because they also don't want to be too dependent on, for example, like Google of the world, and so they are aggressive building second party data. So it's really about doing a testing to see that is this kind of second party data scalable in that sense. I also mentioned about third party data, right? So, I think some of the marketing is still leveraging on third party audience data. Not to confuse that all this third party data will still work if it's not using a cookie approach. There are third party data audience out there like IOTA or iFrame and all that. They are building third party audience data. If it's using like mobile devices using let's say hash email and all that, it still work, right? And that is yeah. So looking into second party data, third party data, right? That is still you need to like start to test and to understand the different approaches.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Travis. We actually have a lot of great questions from our audience, but we won't be able to answer all of them within this webinar. But the Adzymic team will try their best to track responses and reach out to you for answers. Okay, so yeah, so thank you very much, Travis, for that presentation.